We've heard today about the urgency that this emergency requires. We understand the statistics. Workers are uniquely vulnerable in the healthcare setting to violence as they care for the most vulnerable among us, and we know how to help. We know that evidence-based practices will lower this trend line, and we know that when hospitals and other facilities adopt them, rates of violence against staff goes down. In closing, I'd like to share a few words from a letter written to me by Gene Sausse from Louisiana about his sister, Lynn Truxillo, who was a nurse in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, until her death just this past April of this year in the hands of a patient while she worked. Lynn saw the patient attacking one of her colleagues, and when she intervened, the patient turned on her, grabbed her by the back of the neck, slammed it into a desk. She passed out and suffered additional injuries. A few days later, she died from her injuries. Lynn's brother came to Washington, unannounced, to my office a few months ago to share his family's grief and explain why we cannot wait another 20 years for OSHA to act. It wasn't until days, and this is what he said, it wasn't until days after my sister, registered nurse Lynn Truxillo, was brutally attacked and murdered by a patient inside of Baton Rouge General Hospital during her shift 6 months ago, did I learn that the violent workplace incident rates are 4 times higher in healthcare than all other industries. As a small business owner in New Orleans, I have firsthand experience with the complex and often burdensome nature of government regulation. I get that, but I support fewer regulations in smart, certain circumstances. However, in the 6 months since Lynn's death, I've learned how gravely and disproportionately vulnerable healthcare workers are to acts of workplace violence against them. It is unconscionable that less care is given for the health and well-being of those who care for us when we need it most. Thank you for trying to spare other families from the kind of grief and tragedy that mine has endured every day since we lost our beautiful sister, mother, and daughter. She should be home making Thanksgiving dinner for her children, mother of 2. But because we don't have a national enforceable standard to reduce workplace violence in healthcare settings and social work, this gentleman, he's not a lobbyist, he's not a super PAC, he's a brother who came to Washington at his own expense, like so many others, to talk about the fact that we have a crisis. It's our job to address that crisis, and that's what this bill does. With that, I urge a yes vote on H.R. 1309, and I reserve the balance of my time.